What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Brennan, and I'm BMX45, and we're coming at you with another video. We have another review for Star Wars Skeleton Crew. This is our halfway review of the series. We covered the opening 2 episodes when it premiered, and we are covering episodes 3, 4, and 5 here. We still got 6, 7, 8 to go, so I figured this was a good place to step in and do a review of all the things we've learned and all the fun we're having. We're having a lot of fun with the show. It's actually really great. I'm really enjoying it. Jude Laws' character is really great, so we're gonna get into it. We're gonna talk about episode 3 starting where we left off, and there are going to be some spoilers in this video, hopefully light spoilers. I'm going to try and keep them to a minimum, but if you're worried about it, I would recommend going and watching the stuff on Disney Plus before coming back here and having this discussion with us. And hey, if you enjoy this type of content, be sure to smash that like button, comment down below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Subscribe to the channel and hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss a single minute of fun. All right, well, where we left off, we just met Jude Law's character. We learn his name early on in episode 3. Jah Na Nawud is what he tells the kids his name is. We see Whims very entranced by him, that feeling that he's the Jedi that he was looking for, the adventure he was looking for, just kind of enamored by him and his use of the Force. And then we see Fern, who is, very cynical and just not sure should they can trust them, thinking he might be, why is he in this position? Why is he stuck in this cell? He might not be very trustworthy. So we're seeing that come about there, and they manage to escape the pirates' lair. Jod helps them get through that. He goes back for the droid, and they get out and they do a lot of damage to the pirate facility, and Brutus is putting bounties on them now. And we see that Jude Law is the captain that got basically overthrown at the beginning of the series, the one with the mask. And so we kind of know that he's not exactly totally on board. He's playing this, we can see he's playing this kind of holier than thou character for the kids to get them to trust them, because he's really interested in At-Aten. They end up going to another planet to contact of him, which is this cool little owl alien called Kayam. I believe it's Kayam, and who's like a scholar, and Jod, thinks that she can help find At-Aten. We learn that Jod has several different aliases, starting there with from Kayam, who knows him as Crimson Jack. That's one of his names. We see here that Wikipedia has already started to do stuff about him. Jah Na Nawud was a Force-sensitive human male pirate during the New Republic era who operated under many aliases such as Crimson Jack, Silvo, the Mad Captain, Dash, Zenton, and Jodwick Zank. I don't recall hearing that one. I must have missed it in another episode, but that's what we got so far. What we know about him, he's got several different aliases, and she doesn't trust him, and she's already called in basically the New Republic on him, thinks the kids are in danger. She wants to help the kids out because she's very obsessed with At-Aten, tries to help them find some coordinates, and there's a scuffle with her and Jod, and then the kids and Jod run back to the ship, at which point the kids are like, okay, I don't think we can trust you, and he's like, I've never said I was a Jedi, and basically comes to a deal, hey, I'll get you home, and then I get some kind of reward, and that's kind of the deal. We'll trust each other as long as we have to. And that gets us through episode 3 and then on to episode 4, where they go to the coordinates that they were provided, and they find not At-Aten, but another At planet, almost like there's several different versions of At-Aten, like a project that the Old Republic did, where they kind of created all these different communities, and unfortunately At-Aten is hidden away, from the rest of the galaxy. It's lost to the rest of the galaxy, whereas these other planets maybe not so much, and they're basically failed versions of At-Aten. You see how the buildings and everything are the same, but they're destroyed. The people on the planet are very much at war with each other, like two cultures fighting over land and fighting over cattle and stuff like that. The kids, being brought into the one camp, and they're basically say, hey, well, we like our kids, we want them to learn how to fight, so we're going to show you guys how to fight. Basically, you see characters like Whim, who's still very much enamored by the whole adventure of this. He's okay with fighting and stuff like that and learning how to use weapons. He thinks it's all cool, whereas Neil, he's really, he doesn't, we see a lot of growth in the character of Neil in this episode, as he doesn't necessarily want to fight, but then later on he kind of feels like he doesn't want to fight, but he will, to protect his friends. That's really cool, and I really enjoyed Neil's part in this. We definitely see more about Jude. He still kind of is playing the mysterious savior when the kids are forced to like lead the forces against their enemy, and basically they don't want to do it, but they're being forced to. And then Jude comes out of the smoke with all the cattle which he's bought from the other side, and kind of basically resolves things. But like Fern still doesn't trust him. Even though he did help out and stuff like that. So there's a lot of like back and forth between that stuff in episode 4. Definitely, like I said, the character of Neil has a lot of growth. We also see the character of Fern start to doubt herself and her abilities and her ability to get everyone home, which is something, people saying that they were worried that Fern's character was a Mary Sue, which I definitely think that that's not the case. She is going to have that doubt and in her abilities, and we're going to see her maybe start to look inward, and then maybe look at the people around her and really rely more on them. So I think that that's something important to remember. They end up finding a citadel, just like the one in their planet, where they find coordinates to other versions of these at-Aten places, and they find the at-Aten, that it's there, but the coordinates have been scratched off, at which point they've been hearing from the droid all throughout the different episodes. Whenever they asked about at-Aten, he's like, I don't recall no at-Aten. And it was kind of like when Fern realized I don't recall is basically not that he doesn't know about at-Aten, it's the memories have been taken away from him. So she uses kind of like a trick to access those memories, which causes the robot to go berserk, because his old captain basically had him destroy the coordinates that they were looking for, and basically anyone who asked about them, who found a way to get into the robot's programming, the captain had ordered the robot to kill them. So the robot attacks, SM-33 attacks them. Neil basically distracts the robot to save the kids, and before Neil could be attacked by the robot, Jude manages to shut SM-33 off, which kind of ends the episode at that point. So we get into episode 5, which had a lot of cool stuff happening. We learned a lot more about different things. They figured out a way to basically make it safe to turn SM-33 back on. Don't tell me how. Plot armor. So that they can ask him about what's going on. And the robot kind of says, you're my captain now, that I'm not going to attack you. And basically tells them about his old captain, which is Tak Renner, basically a famous pirate. And Jude was amazed because he knows the name right away. It was this famous pirate that roamed the galaxy in his ship, which we get a name for the ship, which is called the Onyx Cinder, and basically plundered all over. And then he disappeared one day looking for at-Aten, never to be seen again. So it's got this kind of mystery to it. And we're not sure how long ago this was. It could be like 5 years, 10 years, 50 years. We haven't really learned like how long has that ship been on the planet. We learned that basically he found the coordinates to at-Aten, and when they were traveling there, his crew mutinied against him. He locked them out of the controls so that the ship crashed on the planet, and basically killing everyone. It's funny though too, a little bit kind of, you think about it, like the droids noticed when the ship took off from the planet, but the thing's been sitting on, potentially for years on the planet when it crashed, and it's like no one nobody came and to figure out what happened when it crashed. Like it obviously has been covered in stuff for a while. So I mean, like it took a while for everything to get covered up. So it's just kind of interesting how that all came about. But we might find more about it, and it's an interesting story. So I mean, I'm enjoying it. So I can let those little things go there. But we learn that there is a secret base on a planet where Captain Renner will have stashed the coordinates to At-Aten, and so SM-33 is going to take them there. On the way there, Whim kind of goes off on his own, disappointed that this is not the adventure he was looking for. He was hoping for the grand Jedi adventure of roaming the galaxy and protecting people, and instead of this bloodthirsty revenge or treasure pirate adventure that he's found himself in. Jude Law's character Jude follows him, and they have a little discussion, and in the discussion the line was said, and it's really cool. This is a bit of a spoiler, as I found out later. It was a line Qui-Gon said to Anakin in episode 1, which is always remember your focus determines your reality, which is really cool. Jude's also talking to him about your family, your planet, your all this stuff. Forget about them, they're attachments, and they're not going to do you any good. So it kind of shows that kind of knowledge of Jedi training, although how he explains it is in a very rough, piratey kind of downer way, basically. Just throw them away, they're attachments. But it echoes the Jedi's, if you want to use the Force, if you want to serve the Force, you have to, and serve the galaxy as a larger thing, you have to, forget about these things. You got to have no attachments. So we see that there are some definite training points. He knows some Jedi things, as well as the remember your focus determines your reality, which is really cool because we know Qui-Gon was trained by Count Dooku. He was trained by Yoda. So there's lots of places this line could have come from. It could have been someone who was trained by Dooku. Could have been someone who was trained by Yoda, because Yoda did train younglings. So he could have used this line in his training all the time. As well, people have hypothesized about a Legends character that was like a more liberalized apprentice to Dooku, who didn't really follow the teachings of the Jedi. Like, he really didn't go with the flow. He was more of kind of just a rough rogue Jedi. So lots of different cool things, but I definitely think that there's some connection to the Jedi there, and it was a really cool conversation, showing kind of the growing bond, I think, between Whim and Jude. They're having some kind of bond as they talk about things, and it's not just all him trying to get treasure or won over the kids. So that was really, really cool. We get to the planet there, which is now SM-33 is in disbelief as his master's lair has basically been turned into a luxury hotel with spas and mud baths and stuff. We get to see, they have to try and get there, and they're trying to, find the base, but they have to pretend that they belong and pay off the receptionist to let them in, and to which one of Jod's aliases, Dash Renton, comes up when he meets Pocket, an old bounty hunter acquaintance who he left to die, who is voiced by Meredith from Brave. So that was a really cool cameo, and it looked really well. She looked really well done as a bounty hunter, really believable, and I really loved the all the cool accents, the piratey accents, all throughout this show, between Nick Frost and SM-33. And something we're going to talk about at the end is a lot of this story feels really similar to another pirate story. At the end of the video, I'm going to talk about it, how I feel like a lot of this show inspiration has been taken from this. So we'll talk about that later. Definitely. So Jude sees Pocket and is immediately upset because he knows that she's going to call in their bounties. So he basically pays all the money he can to the receptionist to make him give him a room under the name of the Professor Gorlak, pretending to be him so that they can search the area for Renton's secret hideout. Captain Rented. If I get it wrong, I get a lot of these things wrong, especially when the accents are like so thick and they say this stuff. I thought it was Rennick, but it's like Captain Renner, I believe is what they called him. And so Jude Laws trying to tell the kids, we need to, find this now. When they're searching for it near the mud baths, you get to see like huts. So that was kind of cool. It's just as the little alien cameos. Then the security guards corner kind of come up to John, and they're like, Professor Gorlax from Scipio, and I didn't get that right away. And as soon as they said Scipio, John was like, oh no, like I'm yeah, they can tell I'm not the right person. And of course, I had to do some research because don't know everything about Star Wars, but the alien race that is native to Scipio is the Mun race, which is the bankers here. So definitely not a human being. So definitely they got him. Basically, they knew he wasn't who he said he was. So that was one thing. So they run away from them and basically have to like go find the entrance. So they find the other kids with this alien, Caliphate. They say his name once, and I'm not sure exactly. And he's really cool because he's like this giant almost aquatic type animal with a giant like wrecking ball with spikes on his tail, who opens up the entrance to the secret lair for them. And he's just kind of cool with letting the kids do whatever they want as long as they tell him their stories. I love it how when they meet him, he just sniffs John and he's like, you're right, you can't trust him. So like whoever looks at him or whoever smells him or people who've known him are basically telling the kids, you can't trust this guy. So they're trying to get into the secret lair, and I won't spoil how they get in, but they get in and they get away from the bounty hunters. They find the log that tells them where At-Aten is, and Jod finds out what the treasure of At-Aten is, which again I won't spoil for you guys. And basically that at that point, his kind of overwhelming need, that need to kind of get that score of his life takes over, and he basically challenges Fern to the pirate code, to the right to challenge the captain, to which SM-33 can't do anything about. He has to let the battle commence. Basically, if you die or you admit defeat, you lose your spot as captain, and the person who challenged you gets to be captain. So Jod basically takes Fern at knife point and says, you just need to concede, you just need to give up. And she's like, how can you do this? You're an adult. And Whim tries to step up and protect Fern with a weapon he found, to which he doesn't know what he's doing and almost cuts his leg off. And Jod basically tells him, this isn't one of your stories. And then Whim he's growing as a character, so you see that character growth. He's trying to be more confident and trying to be more serious about things, because afterwards Jod basically wants to take them all captive, and Whim uses a trapdoor in the room to help them all escape. And then Jod picks up the weapon Whim had, and that's kind of where we end off episode 5. And so right now we don't know what's going on with Jod. He's kind of shown this darker side of him. We're not sure if he's, still cares about the kids, or if, he's just been using them the whole time. You'll have to wait to see to episode 6, 7, and 8, whether he has some kind of redemption there. But I know a lot of people thought he went too far with Fern. So we'll have to see what his overall goal is. But right now it seems like he's out for the treasure, and he's going to get it no matter what it takes. So that's where we're left off with. And some really awesome, storytelling in this episode. I really loved it. A lot of cool things. The parents are back on the planet trying to figure out a way to reach their kids, and the whole planet system is basically designed to stop them from basically ever contacting anyone. So they're having their own troubles. So there's a lot of things going on in this story, but everything's kind of going on, piece by piece. It's unfolding relatively well. There's a lot of cool cameos and different things like that. I definitely enjoyed this episode better than episode 4, but I really liked episode 3 as well. So I'm hoping that I'll continue to really like these episodes as they come out. The show is doing pretty well, honestly. If we look here, Rotten Tomatoes, you never want to trust the tomato score because that's the critics, and the critics are just paid off people. But the audience score is up at 80%. That's really good. And it's, for this is a new Star Wars show that has no really grounding in like a lot of the other stuff. There's no connections to like a lot of other Star Wars, and it's getting a pretty good score. When we have shows like The Acolyte that the critics think is that good, but even that's not that bad, like 80%, whereas the audience score is like 19%. So you can see there that obviously the audience is responding to this way more. It's way more fun. And the Acolyte had honestly had more things going for it in terms of having Jedi, having connections to the prequels, and just the fact that this show is doing better just goes to show you that the care that was taken with this show and the writing has been so far has been a lot better. They're not ruining the Star Wars universe. They're not, throwing stuff away and trying to make the bad guys good. Like, he is a bad guy. But we'll see if he chooses to do the right thing in future episodes, or if he stays a villain. I mean, that's going to be where it's going to end up at. This is, I really enjoyed this episode. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are. You let me know if I forgot anything or left anything out. Like I said, I wasn't trying to touch on everything, but so far, we've got to the point we know where Atten is. The kids are kind of on their own. We'll see how things go from here. We know Brutus is still chasing after them. So we'll see what happens. The Onyx Cinder, really cool ship name, although the ship is in a lot of disrepair and could use a good scrubbing. I'd like to know how old that ship is, how old the legend of Captain Tack Renner is. But we'll see in future episodes if we get to learn a little bit more. And I want to know about Jod, what his connection to the Jedi are. But one thing I do want to talk before we end this video here is Treasure Island. If you've never seen Treasure Island, you might have seen Muppet Treasure Island is another version of this, or Treasure Planet. It's the story of a kid who finds a map to basically the hidden treasure of a famous pirate captain Flint. His name is Jim Hawkins, and he, with some people he knows, he goes on an adventure to find this treasure. So Jim, and he meets a man, Long John Silver, who is a man with a peg leg. So I know Jod doesn't have a peg leg, but SM-33 does, so that can kind of be like a bit of a callback there. Long John Silver is on the crew and kind of forms a bond with Jim Hawkins. At the same time, he is secretly a pirate who plans on taking over the ship with his pirate crew, who have basically been hired on as hands on the ship and are trying to get that treasure map and find Captain Flint's treasure. During that, so you have that kind of bond between Long John Silver and Jim Hawkins, where he kind of starts to care for him, but at the same time, his love of money, his love of treasure, makes it so that he is not willing to let Flint's treasure out of his hands. He is a pirate after all. So there's kind of that dual kind of thing there. And the cool thing is one of Jod's aliases, and I do believe Jod Nawood is his real name. He gave the kids his real name to kind of make them trust him, or something he's not willing to do with adults because he doesn't trust adults. He figures giving his real name with the kids would have maybe put them at ease. So I do believe that we got his real name for the kids, but everyone else, he has an alias. And one of his aliases is Captain Silver, Long John Silver. So I definitely feel like they've pulled a lot of stuff from Treasure Island or Treasure Planet. SM-33 reminds me of Billy Bones, with his accent. He was the one who gave the map to Jim Hawkins and told him, beware the man with one leg and stuff like that, which was Long John Silver. So a lot of callbacks, I think, to Treasure Island. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Do you think I'm on the ball with this, or do you think that maybe I am reading too much into it? But I definitely see a lot of tie-ins to Treasure Island, which I love. Treasure Planet, Muppet Treasure Island. So this is a story I've always really loved, and it's always been a really fun one. So I definitely think that they've kind of like pulled, everyone's like, oh, it's the Goonies, but I see more of a draw into Treasure Island. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are down below, if you agree with me, or if you have any other thoughts, and if there's anything I missed there. And we will continue to watch episodes 6, 7, 8 and do a review at the end of that. Anyways, looks like that's all the time we have for this video. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we hope to see you in the next video. As always, have a wonderful day. That's all for now, folks.